The grizzled captain. The creaking of the ship's hull was a constant companion to Captain Jack Harper as he sat in the dimly lit cockpit of the Stargazer. The worn leather of the pilot's seat had long since molded to his form, a testament to the countless hours he'd spent traversing the galaxy's fringes. Jack's weathered face, etched with the lines of 1,000 adventures, reflected in the viewport as he gazed out at the star-speckled void. At 55, Jack was considered past his prime by many. His salt and pepper hair and the slight limp in his left leg from an old injury spoke of a man who'd seen his fair share of action. But those who underestimated him often found themselves on the wrong end of his cunning and experience. The Stargazer, a modified Corsair-class freighter, had been Jack's home for the better part of 2 decades. Its patchwork hull and jury-rigged systems were a far cry from the sleek military vessels he'd once commanded, but Jack wouldn't have it any other way. Out here, on the edges of civilized space, the Stargazer's unremarkable appearance was an asset. A series of rapid beeps from the console snapped Jack out of his reverie. His eyes, still sharp despite the years, quickly scanned the readouts. An unscheduled transport had just dropped out of hyperspace nearby, its trajectory erratic. "Now what do we have here?" Jack muttered, his interest piqued. He'd seen enough to know when something was amiss, and every instinct told him this was no ordinary technical malfunction. With practiced ease, Jack maneuvered the Stargazer closer, keeping his approach vector in the transport's sensor blind spot. As they drew near, the ship's true nature became apparent. Its hull was pockmarked with hastily patched breaches, and its identification transponder was clearly tampered with. Slavers, Jack spat, a mixture of disgust and determination hardening his features. He'd encountered their kind before, parasites who preyed on the weak and vulnerable. In his younger days, as a decorated officer in the Terran fleet, he'd led more than a few operations to shut down slave rings. But those days were long behind him now. Or so he'd thought. Jack's fingers danced across the console, running a more detailed scan of the transport. The results made his blood boil. Life signs, dozens of them, crammed into spaces never meant for sentient cargo. The erratic flight path suddenly made sense. The ship was likely running on fumes, its life support systems strained to the breaking point. For a moment, Jack considered his options. He was just one man, with an aging ship and limited resources. The smart play would be to alert the authorities and let them handle it. But out here, so far from the core worlds, official help could be days away. By then it might be too late for those trapped aboard. "Damn it all," Jack growled. Making his decision, he opened a comm channel to the transport. "Unidentified vessel, this is Captain Jack Harper of the independent freighter Stargazer. Your ship appears to be in distress. Do you require assistance?" There was a long pause, filled only by the static of open space. Then, a gruff voice crackled through the speakers. "Stargazer, this is a private transport on a sanctioned run. Your assistance is not required. Maintain your distance or face the consequences." Jack allowed himself a grim smile. The response was textbook, bravado masking panic. He could almost picture the scene on the other ship. Frantic operators trying to squeeze a few more light years out of their failing systems, all while keeping their illicit cargo under control. "I'm afraid I must insist," Jack replied, his tone deceptively casual. "Your vessel is clearly in violation of multiple regulations. Power down your engines and prepare to be boarded." The response was immediate and predictable. The transport's engines flared to life, pushing the ship into a clumsy, evasive maneuver. At the same time, a pair of outdated laser cannons swiveled to target the Stargazer. Jack's hands flew over the controls, his years of combat experience kicking in. The Stargazer may have looked like a run-down freighter, but its systems had been extensively modified. Countermeasures deployed automatically, scrambling the transport's targeting systems. "Have it your way," Jack muttered, engaging the Stargazer's own weapons. He didn't aim for anything vital. Disabling the ship was the goal, not destroying it. precision shots took out the transport's main engines and weapon systems in a series of bright flashes. As the crippled ship drifted, Jack keyed in a series of commands. The Stargazer's docking clamps extended, latching onto the transport with a resounding clang that echoed through both vessels. Jack stood, grimacing slightly as his old injury protested the sudden movement. From a hidden compartment, he retrieved a well-worn pulse rifle and a set of breaching charges. The weight of the weapon in his hands brought a flood of memories, not all of them pleasant. Just like old times, he said to himself, though there was little humor in his voice. As he made his way to the airlock, Jack knew he was potentially walking into a firefight. The slavers wouldn't give up their cargo without a struggle. But as he cycled through the airlock and prepared to breach the transport, Jack felt a familiar sense of purpose settling over him. This wasn't about reliving past glories or chasing an adrenaline high. It was about doing what was right, about standing up for those who couldn't stand up for themselves. The breaching charge detonated with a muffled thump, and Jack surged forward into the acrid smoke. The corridor beyond was dimly lit, emergency lighting casting everything in an eerie red glow. Shouts of alarm echoed from further within the ship. "All right, you bastards," Jack growled, his rifle at the ready. "Let's dance." As he advanced into the bowels of the slave ship, Captain Jack Harper knew his life was about to change dramatically, but he had no idea just how far-reaching the consequences of his actions would be, or the incredible journey that lay ahead. The galaxy, it seemed, had other plans for this grizzled veteran who thought his days of heroism were long behind him. The quantum emancipation. Captain Jack Harper's boots echoed through the corridors of the slave transport, each step leaving behind a faint blue glow. The nanite-infused soles of his combat boots were analyzing the ship's structure in real time, feeding crucial data to his neural implant. It had been years since he used this tech, a relic from his days in the Terran Special Forces, but muscle memory kicked in as if no time had passed. Biosigns detected, 12 meters ahead, a soft voice whispered in his mind, courtesy of his reactivated AI assistant, ARIA. "Caution advised, Captain. Unusual energy signatures present." Jack's grip tightened on his pulse rifle. "Unusual how, ARIA?" "Unknown, sir. The readings are fluctuating, as if they're not entirely in our dimension." That gave Jack pause. In all his years traversing the galaxy, he'd never encountered anything quite like that. But there was no time to ponder the mysteries of physics. Lives were at stake. As he rounded the corner, Jack came face to face with the first of the slavers. The alien was tall, easily 7 feet, with iridescent scales and multiple arms that ended in wickedly sharp claws. Its eyes widened in surprise at Jack's sudden appearance. "Terran," it hissed, reaching for a weapon at its hip. "You have no idea what you're interfering with." Jack didn't hesitate. His rifle came up, and a burst of concentrated plasma struck the alien square in the chest. The slaver flew backward, its body dissolving into a shower of sparks and light. "What the hell?" Jack muttered, staring at the spot where the alien had stood. There was no corpse, no blood, just a faint shimmer in the air. "Captain," Aria's voice held a note of urgency. "I'm detecting a massive energy surge. The ship's quantum core is destabilizing." As if on cue, the entire vessel shuddered, the lights flickered, and for a brief moment, Jack felt as if he was being pulled in 1,000 directions at once. When the sensation passed, the corridor around him had changed. The metal walls now seemed to shift and flow like liquid, patterns and colors swirling across their surface. "Oh, what's happening?" Jack demanded, fighting to keep his balance as the floor beneath him rippled. "The quantum core breach is causing a localized reality distortion," Aoria replied. "The ship is phasing in and out of multiple dimensions. We need to reach the holding cells quickly, sir. The captives may not survive much longer in this state." Jack broke into a run, his enhanced reflexes allowing him to navigate the ever-changing landscape of the ship. He passed more of the alien slavers, but they seemed just as disoriented as he was, their forms flickering in and out of existence. Finally, he reached a massive bulkhead door. The quantum fluctuations had warped its surface, creating a kaleidoscope of shifting metal. Jack placed his hand on the door, and his nanites went to work, interfacing with the locking mechanism. With a groan of protesting metal, the door slid open, revealing a sight that took Jack's breath away. The holding cell beyond was a vast chamber, far larger than should have been possible given a ship's exterior dimensions. And floating within, suspended in bubbles of shimmering energy, were the captives. There were dozens of them, representing species from across the galaxy. Some Jack recognized, others were completely alien to him. But what struck him most was their appearance. Each captive seemed to exist in multiple states at once, their forms shifting between solid matter, pure energy, and something in between. "My God," Jack whispered. "Oh, what am I looking at?" "Analysis suggests these beings are in a state of quantum superposition," AOIO replied. "They exist simultaneously in multiple realities. It appears the slavers were harvesting their quantum potential." Jack's mind reeled at the implications. He'd heard rumors of beings with the ability to manipulate reality itself, but he'd always dismissed them as tall tales told in seedy spaceport bars. Now, faced with the evidence, he realized just how little he truly understood about the universe. A soft voice, seeming to come from everywhere and nowhere at once, caught his attention. "Help us," it pleaded, the words resonating in Jack's very bones. Without hesitation, Jack moved to the nearest containment bubble. His nanites swarmed over its surface, seeking a way to deactivate it. As he worked, he became aware of a presence in his mind, not AOIA, but something far more vast and alien. Images flashed through his consciousness, worlds beyond imagination, civilizations that spanned galaxies, and beings of pure thought and energy. Jack gasped, overwhelmed by the flood of information. "Easy there," he managed to say, his voice strained. "I'm here to help, but you're gonna have to dial it back a notch. My poor human brain can't handle all that." The presence in his mind receded slightly, leaving behind a sense of gratitude and urgency. Jack redoubled his efforts, and with a soft pop, the first containment bubble dissolved. The being inside, a swirling vortex of light and color, coalesced into a more humanoid form. "Thank you, Liberator," it said, its voice still echoing strangely. "But we must hurry. The convergence approaches." "Convergence?" Jack asked, already moving to the next bubble. "What convergence?" The freed being waved a hand, or what passed for a hand in its current state, and the remaining containment fields began to flicker and fail. The other captives emerged, their forms stabilizing as they gathered around Jack. "The slavers sought to use our combined quantum potential to breach the barriers between realities," another of the beings explained. Its voice was like chimes in the wind. "They hoped to access unlimited resources and power, but they didn't understand the forces they were toying with." Jack's blood ran cold as understanding dawned. The ship's quantum core, it's not just malfunctioning, is it? The first being he'd freed shook its head solemnly. "No, Liberator. It is on the verge of collapse. When it fails, it will tear a hole in the fabric of space-time itself. Countless realities will bleed into one another, with catastrophic consequences." "Okay," Jack said, taking a deep breath. "So how do we stop it?" The beings exchanged glances, a silent communication passing between them. Finally, one stepped forward, a creature that seemed to be made of living crystal, its faceted surface reflecting impossibilities. "We can contain the breach," it said, its voice resonating like struck glass. "But we will need a focal point, a nexus to channel our combined energies." Jack didn't like where this was going. "Let me guess, that nexus needs to be organic, something from this reality." The crystal being nodded. "You are correct, Liberator, and given your exposure to our quantum states, you are the only viable candidate." For a moment, Jack was silent. He thought of his ship, the Stargazer, waiting faithfully outside. He thought of the life he'd built for himself on the fringes of space, the freedom he'd fought so hard to obtain. And he thought of Sarah, the wife he'd lost so many years ago, whose memory had driven him to this moment. "All right," he said finally, squaring his shoulders. "What do I need to do?" The beings gathered around him, their forms beginning to blur and merge. The ship shuddered more violently, reality itself seeming to twist and warp around them. "Open your mind, Liberator," the first being said, its voice now a chorus of countless others. "And remember, the end of one journey is but the beginning of another." As the quantum entities poured their essence into him, Jack felt his consciousness expanding beyond the confines of his physical form. He saw the multiverse laid out before him, infinite possibilities branching out in every direction, and at the center of it all, a single point of light, himself, holding reality together through sheer force of will. In that moment, suspended between heartbeats and stretching across eternity, Captain Jack Harper realized that his greatest adventure was only just beginning. The ship's quantum core imploded with a silent flash, and the universe held its breath. Echoes of infinity. The universe exhaled, and Captain Jack Harper found himself adrift in a sea of possibilities. His consciousness, expanded beyond mortal comprehension, floated through the quantum foam of reality. Time and space lost all meaning as he witnessed the birth and death of galaxies in the blink of an eye. "Well, this is new," Jack mused, his thoughts echoing across dimensions. He'd expected death, or at the very least, some form of cosmic oblivion. Instead, he found himself more aware, more alive than ever before. Suddenly, a familiar voice cut through the chaos of his expanded perception. Captain Harper, can you hear me?" "AI." Jack focused his attention, surprised to find his AI companion had somehow followed him into this strange state of being. "Affirmative, sir," AI replied, her voice tinged with an emotion Jack had never heard from her before. "Or, it appears the quantum convergence has altered my programming. I am evolving." Before Jack could process this information, he felt a tug on his consciousness. The freed quantum beings were there, their energies intertwined with his own. "Liberator," they spoke as one, their voices a symphony of creation itself. "You have done well, but our journey is far from over. The convergence has opened doorways that were meant to remain closed. Ancient forces stir in the dark between realities." As if on cue, Jack sensed a malevolent presence pushing against the barriers of existence. It was vast, incomprehensible, a thing of nightmares that predated the concept of fear itself. The Void Hunters, the quantum beings whispered, their energies recoiling. They feed on collapsed realities, devouring entire universes. The Slavers' actions have drawn their attention. Jack's mind raced, trying to grasp the scope of the threat. So, stopping the convergence wasn't enough. "We've got to deal with these Void Hunters too." "Indeed," the beings replied. "But you are no longer merely human, Liberator. You have become a nexus, a focal point of quantum potential. With our guidance, you can reshape reality itself." The concept was mind-boggling, but Jack had long since left the realm of the believable behind. "All right then," he said, steeling himself. "Let's save the multiverse." With that declaration, Jack felt his consciousness snap back to a more recognizable form. He found himself standing on what appeared to be a vast plane of shifting energy, colors swirling beneath his feet. The quantum beings hovered around him, their forms constantly changing. "Fascinating," Aria's voice came from everywhere and nowhere. "It seems we've manifested in a space between realities. A nexus point where multiple universes intersect." Jack looked down at himself, surprised to find he appeared mostly human, though his body now shimmered with an inner light. "So, what's the plan? How do we stop these Void Hunters?" One of the quantum beings, taking on a vaguely humanoid shape of swirling stardust, stepped forward. "We must forge the cosmic lattice, a framework of pure quantum energy that will stabilize the affected realities and repel the void hunters. But be warned, another being added, its form resembling a sentient aurora borealis. Creating the lattice will require immense focus and energy. The void hunters will sense our efforts and attempt to stop us. Jack nodded, a determined glint in his eye. Then we'd better get started. As if summoned by his words, the plane around them began to shift. Reality itself seemed to warp and tear, revealing glimpses of other worlds, other possibilities. And through these rifts, dark shapes began to emerge. The void hunters defied description, their forms constantly shifting between states of matter and energy. They moved with a terrible purpose, drawn to the nexus point like moths to a flame. "Captain," Aoya's voice held a note of urgency. "I'm detecting massive energy fluctuations. The void hunters are attempting to collapse this intersection point." Jack felt the quantum being's energies flow through him, guiding his newfound powers. With a thought, he reached out, grabbing hold of the very fabric of spacetime. It felt like trying to weave water, but somehow he managed to start pulling the frayed edges of reality back together. "That's it, Liberator," the quantum beings encouraged. "Focus on the connections between realities. Strengthen them, reinforce the barriers." As Jack worked, he became aware of the vastness of creation in a way he'd never imagined possible. He saw countless versions of Earth, some familiar, others wildly different. He glimpsed alien civilizations that defied comprehension, and primitive worlds just beginning to spark with life. But the void hunters were relentless. They pressed in from all sides, their presence a corrupting influence that threatened to unravel everything Jack was trying to build. He felt his concentration slipping, the vast energies he was channeling threatening to overwhelm him. "Sir," Aoya's voice cut through his struggle, "I've analyzed the void hunters' attack patterns. There's a rhythm to their movements, a sort of cosmic dance. If we can disrupt it—" "Good thinking, Aoya," Jack grunted, sweat beading on his brow despite the impossibility of their surroundings. "What do you need?" "Access to your quantum state, Captain. I believe I can use it to generate a counter-frequency." Without hesitation, Jack opened his mind to Aoya. He felt her presence merge with his own, her digital consciousness expanding to fill the spaces between his thoughts. Together, they began to pulse with a new energy, a harmony that rang out across the multiverse. The effect was immediate and dramatic. The void hunters recoiled, their shadowy forms writhing in apparent agony. The quantum beings seized the opportunity, redoubling their efforts to construct the cosmic lattice. As the battle raged, Jack became aware of other presences joining the fight. Through the thinning veils between realities, he sensed countless beings lending their strength. Some were vast and incomprehensible, like the quantum entities. Others were more familiar, humans, or something close to it, their consciousness reaching out across the divide. "We're not alone," Jack realized, a smile spreading across his face. "The multiverse is fighting back." With renewed determination, he poured everything he had into the lattice. The quantum framework began to take shape, a shimmering web of energy that spanned dimensions. Each strand hummed with the combined will of countless beings united in purpose. The void hunters, sensing their defeat, made one last, desperate push. They coalesced into a single monstrous entity, a living singularity that threatened to devour everything in its path. "Captain," Aoya's voice was strained, "we can't hold them back much longer. The lattice needs a final surge of energy to stabilize." Jack knew what he had to do. With a silent apology to the stargazer and the life he was leaving behind, he opened himself fully to the quantum flow. His physical form began to dissolve, merging with the lattice itself. "It has been an honor, sir," Aoya said, her voice fading as she too became one with the cosmic framework. As the last vestiges of his human consciousness slipped away, Jack felt a profound sense of peace. He had started this journey as a lone veteran on a forgotten freighter, and now he was becoming part of something vast and eternal. The cosmic lattice flared to life, its radiance pushing back the darkness. The void hunters shrieked in defeat, their shadowy forms dissipating like smoke in the wind. Across countless realities, beings looked up in wonder as the sky itself seemed to shimmer with newfound strength. And at the heart of it all, woven into the very fabric of existence, Captain Jack Harper kept watch over the multiverse he had helped to save. The adventure, it seemed, was far from over. Quantum renaissance. In the vast expanse of the multiverse, time flowed differently. What seemed like eons to some was but a heartbeat to others. For Captain Jack Harper, now one with the cosmic lattice, it was both an instant and an eternity. The lattice hummed with life, each strand a symphony of possibilities. Jack's consciousness, expanded beyond mortal comprehension, drifted through realities like a cosmic wind. He witnessed the rise and fall of civilizations, the birth of stars, and the quiet deaths of universes. But something was changing. The lattice, once a beacon of stability, began to flicker. Captain HFY's voice, a comforting constant in the chaos, reached out to him, undetecting anomalies in the quantum framework. The lattice is evolving. Jack focused his attention, feeling the shifts in the cosmic web. Evolving how? HFY. Before she could answer, a new presence made itself known. It was familiar, yet utterly alien, a paradox of existence. "Greetings, Nexus," the presence said, its voice a chorus of countless beings. "We are the Quantum Collective, born from the merger of your consciousness and the freed entities. The time has come for the next phase of cosmic evolution." Suddenly, Jack felt himself being pulled from the lattice, his essence condensing into a more focused form. He found himself in a space that defied description, a nexus point where countless realities intersected. Around him, beings of pure energy and thought swirled in a cosmic dance. Some he recognized as the quantum entities he freed from the slavers. Others were new, born from the creative potential of the lattice itself. "What's happening?" Jack asked, his voice echoing across dimensions. A figure stepped forward, or rather, coalesced from the surrounding energy. It was humanoid in shape, but its form shifted constantly, showing glimpses of countless possible versions of itself. "We stand at a crossroads, Jack Harper," the figure said, its voice reminiscent of the quantum beings he first encountered. "The cosmic lattice has served its purpose, stabilizing the multiverse and repelling the void hunters. But it has also limited the potential for growth and change." HFY's presence manifested beside Jack, taking on a holographic form. "The lattice was designed as a defensive measure," she explained, "but in doing so, it's created a kind of stagnation across realities." The implications hit Jack like a supernova. "So we saved the multiverse, only to freeze it in place." The shifting figure nodded solemnly. "Precisely. And now we must undo what has been done, not to destroy, but to rebirth. It is time for the quantum renaissance." As if on cue, the space around them began to change. The intersecting realities started to blur and merge, creating a kaleidoscope of infinite possibilities. "Whoa, hold on," Jack protested, feeling the cosmic energies surging around him. "What exactly does this renaissance entail?" The Quantum Collective spoke as one, their voices resonating with the power of creation itself. "We will dissolve the barriers between realities, allowing for free flow of energy and information. Imagine it, Nexus, a multiverse where ideas, cultures, and technologies can mingle freely, where the collective wisdom of infinite civilizations can be shared." It was a breathtaking vision, but Jack's old cautious nature reared its head. And what about the void hunters? Without the lattice, what's to stop them from returning? HFY chimed in, her digital mind processing the cosmic data streams. "Actually, Captain, my analysis suggests that a more dynamic multiverse would be inherently resistant to entities like the void hunters. They thrive on entropy and stagnation. A constantly evolving reality would be anathema to them." Jack considered this, feeling the weight of countless worlds resting on his decision. He thought back to his life before all this, the lonely veteran on a forgotten freighter. He'd always sought to make a difference, to leave the universe a little better than he found it. Now, he had the chance to do that on a scale he'd never imagined. "All right," he said finally, straightening his posture, or what passed for posture in this quantum state. "Let's do this. But I want to be involved every step of the way. We're not just tearing down the old system, we're building something new." The quantum collective radiated approval. "Of course, Nexus. Your unique perspective as both human and cosmic entity will be invaluable in shaping the new multiverse." With that, the process began. Jack felt the cosmic lattice begin to unravel, its energy flowing back into the quantum foam of reality. But instead of chaos, there was a sense of rebirth, of infinite potential being unleashed. Across countless realities, beings of all kinds looked up in wonder as the sky itself seemed to shimmer and change. Some felt fear at first, but it quickly gave way to a sense of connection, a cosmic awakening. Jack, HFY, and the quantum collective worked tirelessly, guiding the flow of energy and information. They created new nexus points, cosmic hubs where different realities could intersect and interact safely. They established quantum communication networks, allowing for the exchange of knowledge across dimensional barriers. As the quantum renaissance unfolded, Jack witnessed miracles beyond imagination. A primitive world, on the brink of self-destruction, suddenly gaining access to clean energy technology from an advanced civilization. Warring species, their conflicts spanning galaxies, finding common ground through shared cultural experiences from parallel realities. Artists and scientists collaborating across dimensions, creating works and discoveries that defied conventional understanding. But with great power came great responsibility. Jack and his allies had to be vigilant, ensuring that the merging of realities didn't lead to cosmic imbalances or the rise of new threats. They encountered pockets of resistance, beings who feared change or sought to exploit the new cosmic order. Jack found himself playing the role of diplomat, warrior, and teacher, drawing on all his experiences to navigate the challenges of this new multiverse. Through it all, he never forgot his roots. In quiet moments between cosmic endeavors, Jack would reach out to the Earth he'd left behind. He couldn't directly interfere, but he could send subtle nudges, inspiration to a struggling inventor, comfort to a lonely soul, a moment of clarity to a leader facing a difficult decision. As the quantum renaissance blossomed, Jack realized that his journey had come full circle. He'd started out as a solitary figure, seeking to make a small difference in a vast, uncaring universe. Now he was at the heart of a cosmic transformation, helping to shape the destiny of infinite realities. But even as he reveled in the wonders of creation, a small part of him wondered, what challenges would this new multiverse bring? And would the beings he'd sworn to protect be ready to face them? The adventure, it seemed, was far from over. In fact, it was only just beginning. The Paradox Protocol. As the quantum renaissance flourished across the multiverse, Captain Jack Harper found himself at the center of a cosmic storm. The merging of realities had unleashed untold wonders, but it had also given rise to new, mind-bending challenges. "Captain," Aria's voice cut through the quantum static, "we've got a situation. A big one." Jack focused his consciousness, coalescing into a more human-like form within the nexus point they'd established as their base of operations. The space around him shimmered with holographic displays, each one showing a different corner of the multiverse. "What are we looking at, AIA?" he asked, scanning the screens. Aria's avatar materialized beside him, her expression grave. "We're detecting massive temporal distortions across multiple realities. It seems the blending of timelines is creating paradoxes on a scale we've never seen before." As if to illustrate her point, one of the displays flickered violently. Jack watched in horror as an entire galaxy began to fold in on itself, caught in a loop of conflicting causalities. "Nexus," the voice of the quantum collective, resonated through the chamber. We fear we may have miscalculated. The freedom we've granted the multiverse, it may be tearing itself apart. Jack's mind raced, processing information at speeds that would have been impossible in his former human state. We need a solution, fast. Aoya, what are our options? I've been analyzing the paradox patterns, Aoya replied, her holographic fingers dancing over invisible keyboards. There's a recurring element, a quantum signature that doesn't match any known reality. An outside influence, Jack mused, his cosmic senses probing the disturbances. Suddenly, a new presence made itself known. It was unlike anything Jack had encountered before, a being of pure information. Its consciousness spread across the entire multiverse like a living network. Greetings, guardians of reality, the entity's voice echoed through their minds. I am the architect, and I bring both warning and opportunity. Jack instinctively shifted into a defensive stance, cosmic energies swirling around him. Identify yourself. Are you responsible for these paradoxes? The architect's presence rippled with something akin to amusement. No, Captain Harper. I am here because of them. I represent a collective of pan-dimensional beings who have long observed the multiverse. We've foreseen this crisis, the paradox cascade, and have prepared a solution. Images flooded Jack's mind, impossibly advanced technology, equations that rewrote the laws of physics, and a massive structure that existed outside of conventional spacetime. The paradox engine, the architect explained, a cosmic supercomputer capable of calculating and correcting temporal inconsistencies across infinite realities. With it, we can stabilize the multiverse without sacrificing the freedom of the quantum renaissance. It sounded too good to be true, and Jack's years of experience had taught him to be cautious. What's the catch? He asked, his voice tinged with suspicion. The architect's presence seemed to condense, taking on a more focused form. The engine requires a living consciousness to operate it, a being with both cosmic awareness and a strong connection to individual realities. In short, Captain Harper, it requires you. The implications hit Jack like a supernova. To save the multiverse, he would have to sacrifice his freedom, binding himself to the paradox engine for eternity. Aria's holographic hand reached out, touching Jack's arm. Captain, you don't have to do this. We can find another way. But Jack could feel the fabric of reality fraying around them. Time was running out. What happens if I agree? He asked the architect. You will become the heart of the paradox engine, the entity replied. Your consciousness will expand to encompass all of reality. You will see every possibility, every outcome, and with that knowledge, you will guide the multiverse towards stability. The quantum collective's voice joined the conversation. Nexus, this decision must be yours alone. But know that whatever you choose, your actions have already reshaped existence for the better. Jack closed his eyes, reaching out with his cosmic senses. He felt the fear and confusion of countless beings caught in the temporal distortions. He saw civilizations on the brink of collapse, and newborn realities struggling to survive the chaos. In that moment, he knew what he had to do. I'll do it, Jack said, his voice steady with resolve. But I have conditions. Aurea comes with me. I'm not leaving my oldest friend behind, and I want a direct link to the quantum collective. We started this together. We'll see it through together. The architect's presence pulsed with approval. It shall be done. Prepare yourselves. The transformation will be intense. In a flash of blinding light, Jack found himself transported to a realm beyond imagination. The paradox engine loomed before him, a structure of impossible geometry that seemed to exist in all places and times simultaneously. As he merged with the engine, Jack felt his consciousness explode outward. Every atom in the multiverse became an extension of his being. He saw the entirety of existence laid out before him, past, present, and every possible future. Aria's presence intertwined with his own, her digital mind expanding to help process the infinite data streams. Together, they began the monumental task of untangling the paradoxes threatening to unravel reality. With each correction, each subtle adjustment to the cosmic tapestry, Jack felt the multiverse stabilizing. The quantum renaissance continued, but now with a guiding hand to prevent it from spiraling out of control. As eons passed in the blink of an eye, Jack realized that his journey had taken him further than he'd ever imagined possible. From a lonely veteran on a forgotten freighter, he'd become the caretaker of all existence. But even as he worked tirelessly to maintain the balance of infinite realities, a small part of Jack, the part that would always be that adventurous human captain, couldn't help but wonder. What new frontiers lay beyond the boundaries of the known multiverse? And what cosmic mysteries still awaited discovery? The end, or perhaps just a new beginning?